Hello, everyone, and welcome to Women Exceeding Expert Webinar Series. We are really excited today to present how to not waste money on marketing, and we're thrilled to have our guest expert, Kelly McInturff with Bird and Hyssop Marketing. If you guys have any questions during the presentation, please type it in the chat box feature. We'll be checking those, and Kelly will answer them at the end of the presentation. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce our partners with Fun, specifically Margot Slauson, VP of Business Support, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about what LiftFund does and what LiftFund can help you all with. Margot?
Thank you so much, Leandria, and good evening, everyone. Glad that you could all join us this evening for an hour of learning and education around how to improve your marketing efforts in your small business. Just wanted to say a few words about our organization. LiftFund is a community nonprofit small business lender, and we help diverse business owners whose circumstances may have limited their access to honest support and affordable capital. We help them to get that capital and support service that they need to either launch or grow a small business within our 13-state footprint in the southeastern U.S. We have been around since 1994 and have propelled the dreams of more than 22,000 small business owners with over $310 million deployed in funding. And we would love to support you on your business journey, whether that be in the startup stages or as you grow and expand. Our business support includes everything from business loans as small as $500 up to $500,000. We also have options for larger commercial loans through a SBA 504 loan program, as well as an SBA 7A Community Advantage loan program. And to complement the capital that we provide, we're also very dedicated to empowering business owners through education and consultation. And you can learn more about our business education on our Lift Learn website or about our workshops at liftfund.com/events. And we would like to thank Women Exceeding for partnering with us. They have a like-minded mission in empowering business owners, particularly women business owners, with the tools that they need. And we're really excited to get to learn today from Kelly McInturff. And so thank you, Leandria, for giving me a few moments to say a few words about our organization, and look forward to connecting with you all if you have further questions about LiftFund.
Awesome. Thank you, Margot. And feel free to email Women Exceeding if you guys have questions about LiftFund or need to get connected with Margot for your small business needs. And I think we'll just dive right on, dive right on in. Kelly, the floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Leandria. And I'm really excited to be here. I think this is going to be a great mind shift for you and your business, anyone who's joining. So thanks so much for having me. And yeah, let's dive right on in. So tonight I am going to help you either stop wasting money on marketing or not waste money on marketing. So let's get started. So most companies waste an enormous amount of money on marketing. Bigger companies use millions of dollars for ads that may not necessarily work. Small businesses tend to spend thousands of dollars on things that don't actually get any return for them. And here's why. So most companies trust their hard-earned dollars every year to design agencies and graphic artists who, they have degrees in design and they know everything about Photoshop, which is wonderful because we need design for sure, but they've never read a single book or studied about how to create a clear marketing message. And so, on your screen, you see a website just as an example, and it's beautiful and it's sleek and it's awesome. But if you kind of look around, you realize I have no idea what this company does, or, why I should get started or learn more. So this is what a lot of businesses and companies are doing, is they're spending so much money on the design aspect and hoping that makes the return on their investment and gains them more customers, when reality is that people buy products and services only after they read the words that make them want to buy those products. So read that again. I'll say it again. People buy products only after they read words that make them want to buy products. So today I'm going to explain why a lot of us, most of us, have been talking to our customers the wrong way, and how if we keep doing it, we're going to lose the competition and we're going to waste money doing so. So what I'm going to do tonight is show you a framework that you can use to create a really crystal clear marketing message so that your customers not only listen, but engage with your brand. So the framework, I believe, will definitely change the way you talk about your products and services, and it may also even change the way you do business. So before we get into the framework, I want to explain a little bit about how the human brain works. So your customers' brains are designed to do two things above everything else. So the first thing the brain's designed to do is survive and thrive. So what this means is that everybody's always looking around for information that will help them, simplify life, make more money, meet new friends, or just anything that will increase their standing in the world. So anything that can gain status in the world. So that's the first thing that the brain is supposed to do. Now, the second thing the brain is supposed to do is conserve calories. So in order to process all of this information around us, our brain is burning calories. So that's why at the end of a really hard work day, or, a really intense study session from school, you feel really tired. Well, because you've been burning calories all day using your brain so much. So what this means for, in terms of marketing, is that if we don't position our products and services in such a way that can clearly help people survive and thrive, people will tune you out. So we have to get to that pretty quickly, so that they don't have to burn too many calories, and we have to communicate how it will help them gain status in the world. So I want you to picture this. Every time you start talking about your business, or you picture someone going to your website, picture that their brain has started running on a treadmill. So the more confusing you are, the more overwhelming maybe your website is, or how much information you're throwing at someone, the less likely they will be to continue to pay attention. So kind of pushing that further, imagine that every piece of information you give someone about your business is like an 8-pound bowling ball. So how many bowling balls do you think someone can hold before they drop it? I would say about 3, and then they're probably going to drop them all. So that's what's happening when you're throwing too much information at your customers at one time. So people want simple, relevant information, and a lot of times we hand them a ton of bowling balls. So in other words, if you confuse, you're going to lose. Okay, you'll lose out on money and clients. And we don't want that. We want you to succeed. So your brand needs to explain how you can help somebody survive and thrive, but you need to do it in a simple way so that the people don't have to burn a lot of calories to understand how. So I love this quote, clarity is kindness. So I like to say, be kind to your customers. Be kind to the people you're trying to attract by being simple. Because if you're passionate about your business and you know that your product or service can really help someone, being super clear about it and concise is the perfect way to be kind to that customer and to grow your brand. So the framework that I'm going to show you is called StoryBrand, and it is a marketing framework based on the elements of story. So StoryBrand knows that the best way to compel the human brain is to use the power of story, because story is a sense-making device. It's been around since the beginning of time, and it's the only thing that can compel our brain for long periods of time. So the average person spends about 30% of their time daydreaming. 30% of their day daydreaming, except when they are engaged in a story. So when people are engaged in a story, their brain stops dreaming and they fully engage with that story. So like I said, this is a marketing framework based on the elements of story, and it's a 7-part framework that acts as a filter that you can use to clarify your message so your customers will listen. So we'll go through the framework now. So this may ruin movies for you, because most movies are based on a very loose template of what we're about to talk about. So really good stories are very formulaic. But with each element of this framework, I think you're going to have a really big realization about how to brand your business, how to connect with your customers, and the most important is how to never waste money on marketing. So hope everyone's ready. Let's go ahead and dive on into the first part of the framework, which is the character. So a story starts when a character wants something. So, going back to the movie example, there are 2 mistakes that a lot of screenwriters and subsequently brands make when it comes to creating a story. So the first mistake they make is they don't find something that their customer wants. So that's the first mistake they make. Or the second is they talk about too many things that the customer might want. So I don't know if any of y'all have seen the Jason Bourne movies, but the main thing that Jason Bourne wants to know is he wants to know who he is. He wakes up and he can't remember anything about his life. So the whole mission is to find out who he is. And I thought it was a fantastic movie. But let's suppose that whoever wrote this movie had Jason Bourne wanting to know who he is, lose 30 pounds, marry the girl he meets, run a marathon, and, contemplate adopting a cat. So although I can't hear you, I'm sure there would be crickets because that would not be a compelling story at all. You would lose the audience. No one would want to see that movie. And why? There are too many bowling balls. The audience, they don't know which plot to follow. So here's our first takeaway as it relates to marketing, is that in our branding, we have to define something that our character wants, and our character is our customer, okay? It has to be generic enough to encompass our whole brand, but specific enough so that they understand what it is that creates that sense of desire in them. So kind of going on to this first principle is that when we define something that our customer wants, it gets them excited. And so they want to enter into the story because they're like, oh, I want that. I'm interested now. So moving on to our next element, but no story starts until the hero encounters a problem. So I'm going to say character, customer, hero, that's all the same, okay? So if I interchange those, that's what I'm talking about. No story starts until the character or the hero of the story encounters a problem. So when we do define something that the character wants, our customer wants, and we also present a problem that they have in order to get what they want, we set the hook. And now your customer is wondering whether or not you can help them solve that problem. So imagine a movie in which the hero's problem is resolved within like the first 15 minutes. And then the rest of the movie is them going about their life like normal. That probably wouldn't be an interesting movie, would it? So the problem or the challenge that our character faces is the most important element to keep our audience engaged. So, in marketing, I know people say, oh, I don't want to go negative, I want to be really positive. But in order to keep your customer engaged with your brand, you have to talk about the problem that they're facing. That helps them feel understood. It helps them remember that they don't have what they want and that there's a problem that's keeping them from that. So we should never stop talking about our customers' problems, because the second we stop talking about it, the story's over and the customer will lose interest. So, like I said, if you stop talking about your customer's problem, they'll stop paying attention. So now we have a character who has a want. We've told them that there's this problem that they're facing, or reminded them that they have this problem that they're facing. And so we've hooked them into this story. So now they're probably feeling a little like, okay, what do I do next? How am I going to solve this problem? So this is where storytellers for centuries have been bringing in another character at this point. And StoryBrand specifically calls this type of character the guide. So the guide is like in the Hunger Games, Haymitch plays the guide to Katniss to help her win the Hunger Games. Like in Star Wars, Yoda plays the guide to Luke Skywalker. So that type of role. So this person has one job in that movie, and it's to help the main character or the hero win the day. So because of this is where I think the mind shift happens for a lot of businesses. So you want to position your brand as the guide and not the hero of the story. So your customer is the hero of the story, not your brand, which is where a lot of people make the mistake and they don't create compelling marketing messages. So think about it. Every person wakes up as the hero in their own story. So if your brand comes along talking about yourself in a way that you're acting like the hero too, people won't identify with you. So people aren't looking for another hero, they're looking for a guide. So here's an example I like to give is if you go to a nutritionist and you're saying, I really want to lose weight, or I really want to get my cholesterol down, or whatever, and the nutritionist says to you, I've been having a lot of trouble with my nutrition, and I've been having trouble losing weight and getting my cholesterol down. Would you hire that person? Probably not, because they have that same problem that you do. So I'll tell you about a book. It's called Building a Story Brand, and it's a book about this framework, and it takes a deeper dive into what I'm telling you. But Donald Miller, the author and creator of this framework, goes into two ways you can position yourself as the guide. But for now, just know that when you position yourself as a guide in your customer story, they feel like they finally found that help that they've been looking for. So that's a huge thing to remember. Okay, so then moving on in our story. So at this point in our customer story, they're probably wanting what we have to offer, and yet they're not going to make a purchase. And why do you think that is? Well, for the first time in their journey, they are at risk. So if they buy something, they could lose their money, they could lose their time, their pride, and a lot of customers aren't going to take that chance. So this is a great thing to add into your marketing that will help lessen that sense of risk, and that's giving them an easy plan. So it's kind of like the you know, a lot of product-based businesses do this, but they say, you know, pick your selection, you know, add it to the cart and put in your credit card to pay. That seems so simple, but a lot of times, remember, we're trying to conserve calories in our customers' brains. So giving them a plan, even though it may seem so simple and like a caveman could do it, it helps lessen that risk for them and say, oh, this is going to be really easy for my problem to get solved. So adding a 3-step plan helps them move forward, or they most likely won't. So I'll give you an example. So it might be as simple as 1, download our software, 2, go through our short tutorial, 3, enjoy the results. So very simple. It's not rocket science, but it just lessens that tension in their mind. Okay, so moving on. Now our hero, our character, our customer still needs one more thing before they will fully step into this story that we are telling. And they need a guide to call them to action. So again, a lot of businesses leave this, and that's totally leaving money on the table. So heroes are reluctant to take action on their own. They kind of have to be forced to take action. So, you know, in movies, a bomb has to go off for, you know, someone to save the world. A letter has to arrive in the mail for that person to go find their long lost love. A couple has to meet and fall in love, but fail to get each other's contact information, so they have to go on this search. Something has to happen that forces this hero to move. And so the reason this is true in stories is because it's true in life. So people don't take action unless they are challenged to take action. So talking about your website, there should be one obvious button to press on your website, and it should be the direct call to action. So, for example, in my business, the first step in the process for my clients to work with me is they schedule a call. So that is my main call to action on my website, and it is in a different color. It's not surrounded by a lot of other words or buttons, and it's very easy to see that that's the next step I want my customers to take. So brands tend to make 2 critical mistakes in this area. So one is they don't make their calls to action clear enough. I don't know if you remember the website that I showed you at the beginning, but it said get started. So that's, in my opinion, not a clear enough call to action because they don't even know what to get started with. So they either don't make their calls to action clear enough, or another mistake they make is they have so many vague calls to action that the customer can't figure out what they want them to do. So I would encourage you to look on your website. If you have, you know, a button that says schedule a call, and then another button that says call today, or another button that says submit a contact form, and they're all kind of down the page, I would consider choosing one of those and the one that you want your customers to do and sticking with that, because that's another confusing part. In their brain, again, they're trying to conserve calories and they're trying to quickly understand what they should do next. So if you have too many different types of calls to action, they're not going to take it. So using words like buy now, schedule an appointment, things like that, shop here, even start your project. That could be a little more specific than get started. And that will help your customer understand exactly what you want them to do. So the point is to give them something to clearly accept or reject, and to not delude that call to action with a bunch of other random calls to action. Okay, so we're moving quickly through. And so the next part of our messaging filter, our StoryBrand framework, is that unless we tell our customers what can be won or lost based on whether or not they do business with us, the story has no stakes. So, and a story with no stakes is not very interesting. So the first part we want to do is show some success. So customers want us to cast a vision of what their lives can look like if they use our products and services. So Rachel Hollis, who is, I don't know if y'all know her, but she says companies don't sell products, they sell aspirations. So if you think of like Anthropologie, they rarely talk about their clothing, right? But they show pictures of, women who are carefree and fashionable, and they're selling that aspiration. So, Nike, they sell athleticism and status. Apple, they sell, cutting edge technology, thinking differently into the future. So think of those brands that you see that are really successful, and notice how they don't really talk about their products. They don't talk about the features. They don't talk about the quality. They show an aspirational identity. So we want to, again, cast that vision of what that success will look like in their life. Now, on the flip side, we also need to show a little bit of failure. So we need to show what the consequences are for the character, for our customer to not do business with us. I'll say it again. We do need to show the consequences of someone not doing business with us. And what this means for us as a brand, if there are no consequences for not doing business with you, there is no reason to do business with you. So now the key to this is that we don't want to just harp on the failure, right? But I would say a good example of this is it's like salt. Failure's like salt. You just need a pinch and the flavor is there. Too much and it's terrible, and not enough and there's no flavor. So think of the failure as that, but you do need to highlight it in some sort of capacity. So this is a story, and nearly every story you see at the movies or read in a book follows this guideline generally. So a character has a problem and meets a guide that gives them a plan and calls them to action that either ends in success or failure. So what does this mean for marketing? It means that unless you can answer these 7 questions in your messaging, customers probably aren't listening to you. And you may say, well, Kelly, I still get clients and I'm successful, and that's wonderful. And that's awesome. But how many people are you losing or not gaining because they're not getting this clear message? So I want you to be able to just skyrocket your business and not have to invest a whole lot of money to do it, not have to invest thousands upon thousands of dollars to do it, and still gain more customers. So where do we go from here? So I would encourage you to, I'll go through these questions that you can answer, but what do our customers want? What are our customers' problems? And in the book, he goes into external, internal, philosophical. and what that means, kind of going into a deeper level. Have we positioned our brand as the guide to the hero? Have we created a clear plan for the hero to win the day? Are our calls to action clear? And have we helped our hero imagine how we can improve their lives? And have we identified the consequences we are helping our hero avoid? So this is a screenshot of a free online tool that you can use to start clarifying your message. And if you go to mystorybrand.com, mystorybrand.com, again, it's a free tool, and it has each of these, what I like to call buckets, and you can start filling in your marketing message and start brainstorming and narrowing down and clarifying your message. So this is what I believe is the foundation of all your marketing and branding. So before I do an event, before I offer a new service, before I make any changes to my website, I come here and I make sure that the story that I'm telling my customers or sharing with my customers is clear and compelling through this. So here's just a quick example of a website that this is before StoryBrand, and you can see it's very overwhelming. I can imagine that they didn't have a lot of great business coming from this website. And here's the after with StoryBrand. So you'll notice top right corner, they have a yellow button that says call now. That's their main call to action. One thing I do want to point out that is more imagery and not words, but they have a picture of a man smiling. And this company does auction sales for large construction. So it's very, they have a guy who's clearly either works there or he's going to the auction. He's with his kids. He looks carefree. So this is a little note that I want to tell you all is on your website or on any messaging that you have, or like Instagram or anything, put happy people using your products or services. That is a great way to show in with the images that people like using your products or services. So that's just a little side note. So here's what I'd recommend doing next. So I would pick up a copy of the Building a StoryBrand Framework. It deep dives into what we covered today, and you can start applying it. You can start applying it now. As soon as you finish this, and you can start applying it into social media and on your website, and even how you just talk about your business at networking events. So the thing that I want you to remember above all else is that if you confuse, you will lose. So I don't want you to lose. I want you to grow your business and to not waste money doing it. And so I hope that you were able to gain some good tips from this. And I think we're going to open the floor up to questions now.
Yes, we are. Thank you so much, Kelly. As a reminder for those who joined in a little bit later, if you guys have any questions, please type them in the group chat feature. We do have a couple of pre-asked questions that we're going to go ahead and dive into to give you guys a chance to type into the chat. So the first one, essentially it's a small story. Kelly, this lady is a career coach, and she runs a consulting business where she works one-on-one with clients, writing resumes and coaching, but she also sometimes dabbles in large group facilitation for organizations. And she has no idea how to best find clients, organizations to expand her network and to get more clients. So her specific question is, what is the best form of marketing for a small service-based company like herself, using, I guess, the StoryBrand method?
That's a great question. And I will try to do my best because I think it's kind of complicated. But what I would do is start making sure that your website is really clear. I would, especially since you've already worked with organizations, I would go back to past organizations and past clients and ask for referrals and start getting that word of mouth out. And, you know, I think referrals are such a huge asset to small businesses because people also like to hear from their friends on, you know, who to go to for different things. So I would say start there, and start there with referrals, and then make sure that your website is super clear on what you do. And yeah, start there.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question that we had come through email is, how will I best measure my marketing success? So you spoke about telling a story, which I totally love. And I think I can spin this into, how do we know it's really working if we don't get, you know, the obvious phone calls or emails? Is there a specific tracking that you use as far as like analytics or something to tell that it is working, it's getting in front of people?
Yeah, so I would say make sure that your SEO is up to date. And I think what this helps you do, especially on your website, what the StoryBrand Framework does is it helps you get the words correct so that your SEO still gets people to you, right? So I think one thing you can look at is bounce rate. So bounce rate is on your website specifically. If someone comes to your website and they're jumping off immediately, that's probably not a good sign. So one thing to look at is seeing if people are sticking around on your website a little bit longer. And so if that bounce rate is going down, you know that something on there is working. I would say even getting feedback, you know, one of my clients that I helped, she started using her messaging on her Instagram. And she just posted a screenshot today, and someone said, "You're like in my mind," or, you know, something to the effect of, "Are you reading my mind? You completely identified what I'm going through. I'm sending you an email right now." So even little kind of informal feedback like that, that's not really a metric, but you know it's resonating with someone, is a good thing to look for. So I would say, yeah, start there. And this is the great thing, I'll just sidebar on this, with this messaging is it can always change, right? If something is, if you send it to a friend who has no idea about your business, if they get it, you know you're on the right track. Or if you send it to your grandmother and she gets it, you know you're on the right track. So, and if not, you can continue to refine those things.
That's a good way to measure it. If your grandma gets it, then you're good, which is great. I've never heard it put that way, and I love it. I actually have a question just because I work in the marketing industry for a large company, and I was wondering, so what part of this StoryBrand program gives me the biggest advantage over my competitors? Like, why should I use this particular method over anything else?
Yes, so that's a great question. I think because I know story is a big deal right now. It's a big deal in marketing, but here's where a lot of companies are going wrong is that a lot of small businesses, I should say, they're talking about themselves. So they're talking about, we've won this many awards and we've helped this many people, which is great. You do want to share that because that gives you some authority. But they're not really talking about their customer. They're not talking about it in a way that says, you know, for example, the people who say, oh, we've won all these awards, a way they could flip that, and that would make them stand out even more, is saying, we care so much about our customers in such and such area that we've received industry awards for it, right? So it's a way to flip it around. They're still showing that they have the authority in their industry, but they're saying it, the reason why we get these awards is because we love our customers so much. So I think this is a way to, this specific framework is a way to stand out even from the people telling stories who are only talking about themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes total sense. I appreciate it. And we'll have one more question, and we'll probably end a little early for everybody. So say that we've taken this program that you've introduced us, we've implemented it, and now we wait. I know for some of you, our participants out there, they're a startup, they're kind of anxious to get clients in the door. If they do all of this, how soon can they expect, you know, this particular marketing program to attract prospective clients? Is it a cycle, or how does that work?
So I would say this is not a cure-all pill, right? So this is a way to establish your foundation so that you can implement it into your website, into your social media, into, you know, flyers that you hand out, into emails that you send. So I would say it's not something that you just do and wait. I think you still need to kind of put in the effort of, you know, if you need to go to networking events, but at the networking event, this will help you talk about your business in a better way. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is a tool to help you make sure that your message is clear and compelling. It's not going to be a cure-all, you know, I hit the button and it just all comes, right? So, but when you do implement it and you do use it to talk to your customers, it will bring people in. It's just been proven. There's actually a dissertation that a guy on staff at StoryBrand did, and he said no matter what type of business it was, Chick-fil-A has taken their marketing through this framework, you know, down to mom and pop shops. The only thing that determined whether someone was successful or not was implementation. So it will work because it's clear, it's just clarifying. So even if it's not perfect, it is way more clear than a lot of other businesses out there, right? So it's kind of a twofold. Yes, it will if you just implement it, but you also still have to do your, you know, regular marketing efforts, right? This is the tool to support that. Okay. And make sure that the money you are spending brings in that return.
Awesome. Well, if there are no more questions coming from the chat and I've gone through the emailed questions, then we will go ahead and conclude. If you guys think of something to ask Kelly, feel free to email Women Exceeding at info@womenexceeding.com. and we'll forward that along to Kelly so that she can answer your burning questions. I just want to thank everybody for coming, and Kelly, thank you so much for sharing this. This was awesome content. I was geeked out over here just as a marketing person. Thank you to Lift Fund and Margot for joining in and letting us know what Lift Fund could do for our participants. We look forward to seeing you guys at our next webinar event. And if there's nothing else, it was a pleasure conducting this webinar with you guys, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was great.